Hey guys, what's going on? Chris here doing another 4K Blu-ray review. Today I'm going to do it on Forrest Gump, which just came out in 4K Blu-ray last week. Pretty interesting review for this one, mainly because the early word from people that were able to experience this before I wasn't too favorable, or was just kind of middle ground. You know, there was citations of DNR, which is digital noise reduction, which can scrub away film grain, and in doing so can scrub away fine detail. So when I was seeing the rather lukewarm scores, to put it best, for this transfer, I was pretty reluctant to actually pick up a copy, despite the fact that I really enjoyed the film. Mainly because I was already disappointed with the way that Paramount handled the video transfer for Grease. Not entirely so, but how they had to apply a heavy filter of DNR. It scrubs away fine detail. What I think a lot of people, at least a general consumer, forgets about film grain is, it's part of the film stock. It's intact when you're shooting the film. It's pretty much a part of the image. When you scrub away the film grain, it removes away a lot of important detail. So I was actually surprised when I watched this, and I felt like a lot of the criticisms, while valid in some instances, were also a bit exacerbated and exaggerated in some degrees as well, because for the most part the film grain remains intact throughout the entire video transfer. There is minor instances where there is DNR applied, lightly so compared to, say, the aforementioned Grease, or even something like T2, which, as we all know, is rather disappointing for that title. Even some edge enhancement is probably applied to certain sequences. I did notice what I thought was a little bit of over-sharpening during a couple of the scenes during the Vietnam sequences, but for the most part, even those look rather fantastic. The skin tones look really good. There's no magenta push during in the chroma channels, which you kind of experience with Saving Private Ryan, despite how good the transfer was for that. Even that has issues with the chroma channels. There's none of that going on in Forrest Gump. There's a very good amount of depth, actually, too. With the new 4K scan, there's a lot of beautiful wide-angle shots in this film, and you really get an immense amount of depth in a lot of these shots. And with the amount of trees and buildings that are featured, especially together within the foreground and background, you get a lot of natural three-dimensional separation. Fine detail, for the most part, remains intact. Even in some of the more lightly applied DNR scenes, you really have to look to see if anything has been scrubbed away in terms of fine detail. Color reproduction looks really good. I was really happy with the way that greens and blues look. Even in the minor instances where they reference like sunsets or sunrises, the oranges and yellows all look very fantastic and very natural. Textures look very good too. And for a lot of Forrest's button-up shirts, like, you can make out like the difference in colors and details, and even the little buttons, which is pretty cool, especially like the plaid templates and everything that are in his shirt designs. They look really fantastic. You can almost make out each individual fiber in some instances, which is really impressive considering the age of the film and the fact that it was shot on grain, or shot on film, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a detail that you can make out through the grain, because it's very, very resolvable. It looks nice. Audio side of things is also very impressive. It's not really the type of sound design that lends itself to like a bombastic Atmos track, but even so, it still sounds very, very good. I would rate the Atmos track a very solid 4 out of 5. Video transfer, I would give a really, really strong 3.5 out of 5. Now, because of the moments of digital noise reduction being applied in the edge enhancement, that does bring it down a little bit, because I am a purist, and I don't like to see those things employed in any degree unless it's for a very specific manner, in which maybe the director or the creator had spotted something that they didn't like, so they applied the DNR to kind of bring out more detail in a different part of the area of the image that they couldn't do initially when they captured it. But I didn't really think there was any reason to apply any sort of DNR to this finish. And it's unfortunate, because it does take away a little bit from an otherwise spectacular looking transfer. I think the lukewarm scores, for the most part, are actually kind of underselling just how strong of a transfer this actually is, for the most part. If you're a fan of the film, obviously it's a no-brainer, you pick it up. Would I want to see a better transfer at some point for the film? I don't know. I guess if they can do one down the road, when the encoding process continues to improve and they refine all the detail and everything as far as compression and all that sort of stuff goes, the more scientific, technical side of things go. Yeah, I guess, man. But I mean, for now, I think that is the 4K Blu-ray that just came out is obviously the best way to experience this film. Like I said, I think some of the early reviews were a little bit extreme in their criticisms with how they viewed the DNR and so on. I mean, there's a lot to still like about this film. I mean, the black levels are also very good too, and there's really no crush. As a matter of fact, the contrast between the white of his, Forrest's home where he grew up as a kid, and like the black levels during the nighttime sequences, my God, the contrast there is very, very good, and it's not something that's artificial or superficially created. I mean, you'd be able to spot that, if you're a video purist. I mean, it just looks really, really good. I would imagine probably the way that, it was originally intended to be captured. I really like the way like the greens and the foliage and everything looks when they're in Vietnam. There's plenty of like to like during that sequence. Overall, there's a lot to like about it. Other than again the DNR being applied, it's a very fantastic looking transfer, and the audio track is really strong too. If you haven't seen the film and you want to experience it for the first time, I would say this is the way to go. I think it's rather unfortunate that some of the reviews are a little bit punishing toward it, mainly because I understand that we've already had some bad experiences with some of our favorite films. Again, Terminator 2, not to continue to reference and harp on that film, especially since I'm actually a little bit more forgiving of that transfer too compared to others, which I'll cover in another video. But I would definitely say that the early word of mouth was actually incorrect, and I think that this is still a very good transfer all around. I just wish that no DNR had been applied, but again, even in the instances that it's applied, it's nothing that destroys the experience overall from start to finish. And all I can do, I guess, is say to pick it up and experience it for yourself. And if you do that and you happen to agree or disagree with my assessment on the video transfer, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to see what other people think about it, if they use this video as a way to inform their decision as to whether or not to get this. I guess it will, allow you to decide whether or not my opinions and my thoughts on this matter has any credibility or not. I think you will find that this transfer is much, much better than what people were originally saying it was. I've even seen other individuals like myself on the Blu-ray forum even conceding that it's a lot better than the early word of mouth that we were hearing. So yeah. Video transfer, solid 3.5 out of 5. The audio side of things, solid 4 out of 5. Fan of the film, definitely pick it up. If you're not a fan of the film, obviously I don't see why you would bother. But if you haven't seen it, I would definitely say, yeah, go out and blind buy it. I don't think the price is too steep. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it because I bought a bunch of movies, the day that came out. But it's a great film too, man. Definitely worthy of winning Best Picture for the year that it came out and everything. It's a memorable movie. Great performance from Tom Hanks. Real emotional movie. Funny side story. This is one of the films that I saw, growing up in a theater, and to my earliest memory of experiencing films in a theater format, Forrest Gump was probably one of the earlier ones that kind of, I guess, awakened my emotional connection to film and the reactions it can provoke. It really made you realize what art can do for you as far as the emotional side of things go. It's not melodramatic, and it's not too on the nose. It's just a nice, wholesome, I wouldn't say coming-of-age story. I mean, I guess you can to some degree, but it's just really cool the way that this film was made. I mean, Robert Zemeckis did a very good job, making this film and making you care about Forrest and all the stuff that he goes through, as well as like tying him into like a lot of history and stuff like that. It's really cool. So yeah, I would say video transfer is very good. Audio is very good as well. Pick it up if you guys don't have it yet. I think the early word of mouth on this was a little bit blown out of proportion. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for Forrest Gump on 4K Blu-ray. I approve. See it.